The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 1, The Fall. Chapter 24. "And where exactly is your home?" said a voice out in the darkness, beyond the diminishing glow of the Merwin's horn. A woman's voice that sounded rather like the crone of the far raiders. Tal jumped and scrabbled madly for Milla's knife. By the time he found it and held it out, the speaker was already at his side. She had a spear at his throat. She was not alone. A ring of ice curls stood around Tal, Milla, and the dead Merwin. There were at least 12 of them, and they all had spears leveled, as if Tal was as dangerous as the creature Milla had killed. He had not heard them approach. They might as well have blown in on the wind or sprouted up from the ice. They wore different-colored furs than the far raiders, and their masks were decorated with wavy lines that glowed like the calicoy on the Selski. Clearly they were from a different clan. He hoped killing the Merwin didn't count as thieving on their hunting lands. Then again, Milla had tried to kill him just for being there. "I am a chosen of the castle," he said slowly. "But I'm on a quest with Milla there, of the far raiders. I am bound to the clan and to the ship. Look!" He held up his wrist and peeled his gauntlet back to show the marks on his wrist. "You have no shadow," said the woman who had spoken. "Where is it?" "Helping Milla," Tal said anxiously. Now he knew what ice curls were really like. He didn't want to give them an excuse to kill him. "The Merwin hurt her. My shadow has just stopped the bleeding. That's all." The woman looked down at Milla and pulled the fur aside. She still kept her spear pointed at Tal. "Tell me how you came here from your castle, and how you met the far raiders," the woman commanded. Tal told her, the words practically falling out of his mouth. This lot of ice curls was even scarier than Milla. The ones standing around hadn't moved at all. They just stood there, with their sharp spears glinting. As Tal told his story, he surreptitiously looked at the ice curls. Not only were their furs and masks different from the far raiders, he noticed that they were all wearing exactly the same clothes, not at all like the ice curls he'd met before. He had almost gotten up to the part about the Merwin when he suddenly realized who they must be. They had to be Shield Maidens, the sisterhood that Milla wanted to join. They were like completely grown-up Millas, which was a really frightening thought. He finished the story. The first woman stood in silence, towering above him. She started to raise her spear, and Tal gulped. Surely he couldn't have come this far only to be stabbed to death because a mad shield maiden didn't believe his story. "Breg, Liebe, Umen, see to the girl," said the woman. "You, Tal, you will come with us." "Where?" asked Tal. "And is it all right for me to ask who you are?" "I am Arla, Shield Mother," replied the woman. "We are Shield Maidens, currently serving the Mother Crone of the Mountain of Light." "The Mountain of Light?" asked Tal eagerly. That was what the far raiders' crone had called the mountain the castle was built upon. "Are we near to it?" "3 sleeps," replied Arla. "You will soon see it in the sky." "I'm going home!" exclaimed Tal. He jumped up, but stopped as several shield maidens thrust their spears out at him. "You are a prisoner. We will take you to our crone for judgment," Arla explained. "It is forbidden to climb the Mountain of Light, and I am not sure you have told the truth. If you or your shadow try to escape or do magic, you will be killed. Do you understand?" "Yes," said Tal. He felt very tired all of a sudden. Every time it seemed he might get back to the castle without further difficulties, something happened. "We have a sleigh," said Arla. "You can ride on it with your clan bond, Milla." Tal remembered very little of the journey to the Shield Maiden's headquarters in the foothills of the Mountain of Light. Their sleigh was much bigger than Milla's, drawn by 12 Reska, but it was built for cargo, and so was slower and uncomfortable. Tal and Milla were wedged between Selski skin sacks containing something that smelled absolutely putrid. Milla had only brief moments of consciousness, and said little that made any sense. Tal wasn't entirely sure he spent much of the journey conscious either. He slept, or half-slept, most of the way, his dreams and recent events merging. He was stalked by Sharakor, who became a one-eyed Merwin. He climbed a mast and found his father and Ebbet perched there, drinking sweet water. Again and again he dreamed of his fall from the red tower and of sunstones falling all around him, just out of reach. One thing he did remember, and was sure was not a dream, and that was his first sight of what the ice-carls called the Mountain of Light. Woken by a strange chanting, he had looked over the side of the sleigh to see all the shield maidens lined up facing one direction, chanting something softly together. He had followed their gaze, and had seen it. The castle, far, far off and high up, but like a flower of light in the sky, a flower of 1,000 brilliant petals. It seemed to hang there, the mountain invisible in the darkness beneath. Home, thought Tal, home. Now he could see it, he knew he would return. The shield mother's crone would see that he spoke the truth, like the one on the ship. She would let him continue his quest. She had to. He looked down at Milla, who was lying still amid the sacks. His shadow guard had been replaced by bandages and poultices made with herbs and creams Tal didn't know. Her hand was lying outside the furs, the 3 cuts on her wrist clearly visible. Tal looked at his own wrist, the healing scars quite bright in the green light of the moth lamps. Then he looked at her shadow. Somehow it didn't seem quite the same as the underfolk's natural shadows. The ice-carls were different, Tal had decided. They weren't chosen, but they certainly weren't servants. "I will bring you to the castle," Tal said. He bent down and touched his wrist to Milla's. "And we will both get sunstones." The next thing Tal knew, Milla's hand was at his throat, and she was staring at him wild-eyed and feverish. Despite her weakness, he only just managed to wrench her hand free and stagger to the other side of the sleigh. "Why won't it die?" she asked. She shook her head from side to side, then collapsed back onto the furs. "We're on our way to the castle," croaked Tal, massaging his neck. He wished he hadn't said anything, because he already wanted to change his mind about taking Milla. He could not believe how far he'd come, and how far he had to go. Despite battle-crazy ice-carls, hostile spirit shadows, gigantic Merwin, and the freezing cold, he had somehow made it through these unknown lands. Could he possibly be the same boy who lived all his days in the castle, all his days not knowing what existed outside? No, he was not the same. He would never be the same again. Of course, after he convinced the crone to let them go, they would still have to climb the mountain. Then there was the question of how to get into the castle itself. Having never left it, at least not on the ground, Tal had no idea how it was done. All he knew was that somehow he would do it. Tal was going home. End of Book 1.